So I'm really excited because today we're gonna have Tanner, most of you know as Kid Lock, who is the service tech manager, who's gonna be in the meeting today, and he'll be in going forward. And so I'm really interested to get his perspective. You know, he's really good at his job, has done it a long time, and is gonna be able to provide a ton of value to it. So that's absolutely great. As a quick recap, right? If we go back to the last episode, the issues going on between the service techs and the dispatchers, you know, is kind of like the Hatfield and McCoys. Through talking with my dad, he got someone to represent dispatch and someone to represent field techs, which happened to be Haley and Javon. Last episode, we kind of hashed out some of the problems, right? Or like probably the miscommunications would be one of the best ways to describe that. Kind of towards the end of there, realized it's like, hey, you know, we probably need to go back and review some of the real basic stuff. Hopefully kind of get on the same page and proceed, right? And like the three big things that we talked about were the communication between the techs, like them communicating good, but also not setting them up in a situation to where when they have to say, to let you know that maybe they're running behind or things aren't going right, that they're not feeling like they've failed at that job and that they're causing problems just because the job ends up being a little more difficult or weird, right? And with that, making sure that when we're setting jobs up, that we're giving proper amount of time for the techs to feel like they can do the work. And then of course, having the pricing to reflect all of that, right? That was kind of the outcome of the meeting. And so here we are today, right? Back at it, and we're gonna have a little bit more fun, right? And continue to try to solve the problem. And with that, we've brought in a familiar face to probably a lot of you, which is Kid Lock. Hi.
Nice to see everyone.
So Tanner, if you could just do a quick recap of essentially what the role that you kind of play in all of this.
I feel like the role I play is I've been here the longest, so I kind of know how the Lockfather wants his company to roll. And, you know, most efficient at the best. You know, we got to be as efficient as we possibly can. Basically, my role is just to make sure that hopefully I can get the tools the guys need. If they're short on tools or need special tools, I'll try to get them if they can't get them themselves, or go out there and help them if they get stuck on a job.
On the service end?
On the service end. I was kind of overlooking dispatch, where we're kind of easing out of that a little bit. Because I'm so busy out in the field, I can't always help them.
And is it safe to say that it's hard to do the service work and then also make sure everything else in service is going good?
It's extremely hard. Because
you'll be on the middle of a job and you typically do a lot more of the complex type jobs.
Here and there, yeah.
Right?
Here and there.
And so it can be hard for you when you're out there doing that to also deal with all of the other techs and issues or this or that.
Absolutely. But when I'm on jobs, or if I'm in a customer's home or in a commercial business and they are paying me by the hour good money, I hate to walk away and say, sorry, I got to take this, and take my phone and go out and try to help Haley or help dispatch, you know, figure out an issue. It's tough. It's really, really tough.
I think it's clear, right? We all know what the problem is, right? What the problems. The question is how can we start making improvements, right? Now, I don't think we're gonna find ourselves going from 0 to an 80% improvement or 50% improvement, but I think how we get there is we start stacking 5% improvements on top of each other, right? And if we can get 5 of those, we're gonna be hopefully around a 25% improvement. And I think like that's the best way for us to go about it, is just trying to just get 5% wins. And I think a great place to start is Haley printed off the labor price list, right? And I think we should just kind of, let's go through this together, line by line here, assign time on this list. I'll just handwrite on here. I think we need for each one of these a little bit more description steering column tear down, $80. It's on here. Like that varies widely based on what that is, right?
There's an
Everything
old
on
one
there
versus
varies
Widely, yes.
very widely. Yeah.
And so, although that's a great start, I think we have to kind of drill in a little bit. What we do is we assign time to it. It allows us to look at the price and then maybe think about like the variables that we should be talking about. Like if Tanner was wanting a new pool put in his backyard and they're like, well, listen, we haven't dug the ground yet and there's a lot of variables, so it could be hopefully around 50 grand. And then he gets his bill and it's 90 and he's like, why is it 90? Oh, well, because once we got in there, there's some heavy rocks, we had to get another truck out there. And he's like,
That's on you.
what do you mean, right? And so, listen, I understand on our point of view, the ones who do the work, like we know the problems that can happen.
Right.
And we want to protect ourselves from working for free, right? But at the same time, we have to keep in mind the customer's point of view. And so, is what I'm saying is that like I don't believe it's good for us to be quoting the bare bones truck price. Right? And so I think of course, it's never going to be bulletproof and there's always going to be problems, right? And exceptions. But is what I'm trying to sell you all on, I guess, is like, can't we bake in some of the heavy rocks that might be when we start digging for the pool? Can we just factor that into our pricing so if that does happen, it's accounted for and we don't have to go to the customer and be like, hey, blah, 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 it's going to cost this much more. And you're like, well, the hole's already dug. Like, how am I going to stop now? My backyard's tore up.
Right.
Well, it's better to quote a little high than not and give them the price.
And
You can always go
sometimes
back.
we can, kind of do what happened in like the past, being like, okay, well this problem happened, so we can account for that. But it's just, it doesn't always happen.
Yeah. I think if we quote to include those type of things, and then let's say the job actually is picture perfect, and their bill is a little less than what they were quoted,
Being happy.
now
That's right.
it's amazing,
Mhm.
right? And they feel very happy to have called us,
Right.
And so Haley, how long, if it was a 4 rekey residential job right down the road, how long are you going to schedule that tech for? And there's no wrong answers here, but like, what honestly would you put for that?
An hour.
Okay, 60 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's been pretty
Yeah.
consistent.
Okay, so
Yep.
so on that job, there's 20 extra minutes. Now let's talk about everything that is involved outside of the rekeys in that 20 minutes, that additional 20 minutes.
Well, my
Okay.
big issue always is before they even write up their invoice, they need to put all their tools away. So the next job, they know where they're all at. Because a lot of guys just throw them in because they're in a hurry, and then they can't find it for the next job.
Pete has them running hard, I mean,
We sweat even in the mission.
That's
is
right.
what it is.
That's right, yeah.
It's what it is.
I think
You're
it's
trying to
everything.
be more efficient, That's all I want.
yeah, so in that 20 minutes, I'm hearing walkthrough. We have the cutting of the keys, we have the invoice payment. What else? Is there anything else we have in there?
That's just your basic. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, basic.
Do you guys like day in and day out, both of you have done hundreds of these type of jobs.
Mhm.
Is it usually go pretty smooth, stay on schedule, customer happy?
Yeah, if it's we're talking just basic 4 rekeys, basic customer job. Yeah, I think that hour is pretty good. I mean, like I said, I probably, and I'm sure Tanner can too, get it done well under that time, but it leaves a little leeway so that we don't have to feel stressed like, oh, we're pushing this time.
Absolutely.
Some customers just like to talk a lot. They want to know about your whole day.
Absolutely.
And you don't want to be rude and say, I can't talk to you, I gotta leave,
Right.
So I mean,
Right.
there's other things that fall into play, but I think an hour for just a basic job like that is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, hey, at the end of the day, you never know if they have like a really cool belt buckle collection they want to show you.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
The other day I had a guy
Weird things
wanted to
happen.
show me his side by side. He's like, "Well, we can take it for a ride." I'm like, "I'm working. We can't just go off on the trails."
I'll be like, you know what? If I can live stream my boss on this one,
Yeah, right.
Let me check this out. What would you say is the type of job that gets the most off the rails? Is there one or two things that when we talk about, like, what's a job that if you know you're getting called out to do or scheduled to do, it's probably going to be a fester?
Well, it depends if you're talking rekeying or making keys for cars and have to program them. Because some cars to program are a pain. You do everything what it says, but they're still a pain.
Yeah.
I think also like your new hardware installs can go off the rails pretty quick.
Yes.
You know, that's I think where I have the most difficulty. I have an idea of what it's going to take me, and then all of a sudden that's when all the problems snowball. All the different factors come into play. If we're putting in a brand new mortise cassette,
Yes.
something like that, drilling a door, core drilling a door,
Yes.
hinges, all these different things, whether or not the door is even aligned correctly, all those things can come into a factor. And then now what was a basic install with basic pricing now has just, went off the rails, and then you have to, so I think it's the jobs that are set up for longer periods in the day, half the day or whatever job, full day job where you got all the different hardware that's harder to kind of rein in.
Would you say that those pricing and how they're set up, time-wise and price-wise, is best case scenario or just standard, or it includes some problems?
I think a lot of our stuff we have on best case, some of it works out pretty good. Like the rekeys obviously work out pretty good. But the other thing is on a bigger job though, we're also going by just labor time, I think, and so it just comes out to like, well, this job's going to take me 4 hours, and so we give them the pricing for a 4-hour time. Sometimes it's tight, sometimes it's not. So
Most of the techs have gone out and done the survey, so we're going off the tech's time of what they think it's going to take themselves to install the stuff.
Okay.
right.
And when you do one of those, are you quoting best case, middle of the road, worst case? Like, where's your head at?
So if I think, okay, this is going to install this mag lock, this mortise, going to do this electric strike, put a couple storeroom levers on, I'll always throw an extra hour into there. So I guess I'm going off kind of an average. Like best
From
case scenario is going to take me 4 hours, just in case those frames are concrete filled and I can't tell by tapping on them if they're concrete filled or hollow because they're steel frames. I'll add an extra hour and a half in there. Now I usually do that on my quote too, and I throw a little bit more in there for the time to do the quote and the time to drive down there and do the survey. And then you're sitting for an hour putting it all together. So I try to sneak a lot of that in there.
Okay.
And the best case scenario is you get it done in half the time that you were quoted.
Tanner, I mean, what I'm hearing is for the most part, like, you're not quoting best case scenario because you don't want to be set up to have problems.
Don't like to fail.
Right.
It doesn't feel good.
You have to fail.
And when you say sneak, you're not really sneaking. You have to add that labor in for your quote.
Yeah.
Because it's still taking your time of the day.
Yeah,
thing.
I just add it into labor. I don't put on an actual estimate
For
or quote.
quoting, yeah.
Survey cost you this much. It took me an hour and a half because I didn't know what I was doing on computer searching parts or whatever. It took me 3 hours. I'm charging for all those 3 hours. I put it into just labor.
Yeah.
And I do my quotes as I just do labor. This is what it is to install all these parts and everything else. I don't break it down.
Right.
Installing this electric strike is going to cost you $200.
Because again, you have to, on some of these quotes, it's not the standard, it's parts where you usually don't stock, and you have to see what's going to work for that application. Right. So you still have time researching all this stuff, what you have to charge for.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So on this house rekey example that we're talking about, right? So the price is essentially $167 that we've come up with based on the scenario we're given. What price are you telling the customer?
For us to go out to your property, rekey 4 keys and make you, or rekey 4 locks and make you 4 keys, you're looking at this amount plus tax. If we do anything else on site, it's gonna be more.
So you're pretty much saying is that it's going to be 100 in this scenario. You would say you're looking at $167.
I would round up. I'd say 170.
$170 to come do this job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the thing is that, right, if we go out to this job and one of the doors does not have keys or one of the locks doesn't have keys, that's now where we've caught ourselves in the pickle. How much time does it take if one of those locks does not actually have a key?
It takes you 25 minutes to get that. I mean, you go back and forth and like, shoot, should I just pop a new lock on there real quick? Charge it for a new lock? It might be cheaper than me charging by my minutes to get this old Wiser apart. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
it matches everything else. It's all antique and vintage. But do I just say, hey, this thing isn't coming apart. Do you mind if I put a brand new polished brass doorknob on there, which is not going to match everything else you have?
Yeah.
That's where you're like, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I
Yeah.
do? Come on, this has got to come apart. This has got to come apart.
With all of that being said, right, like there's extra costs associated, there's a lot of other things, and it's like, what's really the best way to communicate to the customer, right? And an easy, like, I think the point is like we always want to have easy communication with the customer and not like give them like a briefing in lock terminology and problems.
A lot of them don't even know the difference between a doorknob or a deadbolt
Or a lock.
Exactly.
or a
Yeah.
lever.
Right.
Yeah, because they just want the locks changed.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? They're not looking to become, experts.
Right.
Or really be bothered with any of the nuance.
Right.
Right? They're just looking at like how much is it gonna cost.
Right.
Right.
And so it's like I wonder, it's like, is it possible to make, like when we're quoting, to be like, hey, you'll be looking between $170 and $200 depending on the exact situation?
Depends.
Like kind of add in 10% as like a 170 to 200.
I think that's a good idea to just give a variable,
Just
like that.
Yeah, like in other words, like you're baking in a couple problems without having to talk to the customer.
Yeah, then they're prepared for 200, and then if we give them a 160, they're happy.
Exactly.
And if not, at least they were prepared for it.
But a lot of people go, I need the exact because I got to leave a check because my kid's going to be here or something.
And then say, well, better fill that sucker out for 210.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I just think if we can bake in, it's probably good to bake in 10% extra time
Right.
and 10% extra
Yeah,
dollars into that quote. So if there is one lock or there is a little extra work, like maybe you notice there's a problem with the latch and it needs to be adjusted or this or that, like we have the freedom to do that work, spend that little extra time knowing that we've covered it in the price.
Right.
And so it's going from quoting best case scenario to baking in some of the nuance that happens on the job,
And it's everyday occurrence.
which is an everyday occurrence. What do you guys think about that?
So for us to make it easy, so if we're doing like a range or like what is a way to make it to where it's easy, quick, repetition
Yeah.
type deal? Because
That's easy.
right now it's slow, but it's not going to
Okay,
stay that way.
So yeah, so if it was 170
Yeah.
in this example, you would just add an extra 10% on there. So
Another
170.
$20.
Well, you go 170 times 1.1. Describe it as, hey, so yeah, you're looking right between 170, and then we can round up and up to like say 197 or whatever it is. But you're between 170 and $200, and just kind of leave it there, right? And then with an extra 10% of time as well.
Right.
We're gonna start adding 10% time and money onto that quote variable to just give everyone a buffer so that tech, if they run into a little bit of problems, it's kind of they have a little built-in window of issues. And the customer's also protected as far as they know that, it could be a little more based on what's going on. So in the meantime, with the price list like I'm holding, is someone able to help he would go through and associate hour times for each service to make sure that when we're quoting the time, everybody is on the same page, right? Like, if there's 5 rekeys, everyone in the company knows how long they're going to be given to do that. Yeah. Well, and it just has everyone on the same page. Like, if all of a sudden people are like, hey, we're not giving enough time on this.
Right.
Well, it can easily be adjusted and then everybody benefits.
Right.
Yeah, it's good to have everything written down, I think, just for
it is.
everybody, yeah.
Verbal stuff in business is like the enemy of efficiency and communication. Because if you
Joe
and I...
says it's this and Jim says it's that.
Yes.
Right.
Or
So
if
you
I
couldn't
change something and I only tell Javon and I forget to tell everybody else until next week,
Right,
we start to have problems.
that's right. Yeah.
Right?
So to get our average time frame, do we take someone very experienced and take one of our newbies? And how long take you that? John did it in 30 minutes, took an hour and a half in this, let's do it for an hour. Or do we need 2 technicians to give that,
I think
that average?
it sounds
it
as
takes everybody different times to do
it does. Yeah. I would say that if Haley already has an idea of what these numbers are, I would say go ahead and just fill them in, and then get with Tanner or Javon.
So go over them real quick.
Just go over them and
Perfect,
see if
perfect,
there's
perfect.
agreement, or if it ends up being where like there's a disagreement, just get someone else involved to factor in.
Sure. It's not to pick on anybody, so
Right.
don't feel that.
No,
It's all to
it's
make
just
our
so we all
job
have the
easier
same
in
info.
the long run.
It's just
Absolutely.
communicating to get all on the same page.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
Right.
So we'll do that in the meantime before the next episode, and then we'll have some fun tackling some other stuff.
I think it went well. It's kind of nice that we're kind of hashing things out, and like you had said in there, we're getting a little bit of resistance. So I think that's actually working to our benefit, because I think it's good that everybody's feeling comfortable enough. Now it's the second meeting that we're doing, and can actually speak our mind a little bit. We're not as worried about the camera. Yeah.
I think it went okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. It seems reasonable, so it's not too much of us to do, and we can definitely give a range. On the bigger jobs, for like once they hear that bigger number, they might be like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can kind of, gauge that when it comes.
Well, I think that we've come up with some really good starts for some really good ideas that I think will be beneficial in the future, and hopefully solve some of these common issues that have been around forever. That as far as how long I've been in this business, there's a lot of things that we're going over that I think are common across the board.
I believe it will work. Streamlining everything, dispatch and technicians to get them working more efficient, and at the end goal, having the customers happy. Very appreciative that we came out and we're honoring the price that we quoted within the variance. Adding 10% gives the technician a little more, how should I say it, a little more freedom as far as not being so stressed about getting to the next job so fast and taking their time to do their job correctly. And the customer isn't upset when you added in that you needed to tighten some strike plates or make, install some strikes or make the locks tighter on the doors. It streamlines everything. And I believe adding the 10% on the time and 10% on the price gives everybody a little more freedom to do their job more correctly, and the customer should understand a little more about how we're doing our jobs.
So, probably the thing I've liked most about the meeting today, what we've talked about, is not only what we're doing, but we're hitting a little bit of resistance, right? And I've always found that when you get to a spot where people are kind of hemming and hawing, they're not kind of they like it, but not really. I always feel like that's where a lot of the best part is really kind of hashing that out, and I kind of have fun pushing people a little bit too, so I have to admit that. In the next episode, we're going to now take everything we've done so far, taking the pricing, taking the time it takes to do each task associated with that price, and then now we're going to start assigning difficulty scores and making sure that the right people are doing the right jobs, and that the people that need more help and more training and different skills are going to get that. We'll see you then. Well, I guess this is the end of the video, and it's time for you and I to part ways until next time. But hey, before you go, I really do want to make sure that you know that when you comment on our videos and you include the hashtag lockboss, you automatically get hooked up to win cool stuff that we give away live here on YouTube every Tuesday. So we'd love to have you join us. We'd love to have you comment, and I look forward to reading them soon.